Okay, Neil, we are now live. So thank you very much for joining us today. We're going to be talking about the latest budget announcement from the Chancellor Jeremy Hunt. How are you? How are you feeling about it all?
I'm really, really well, thank you. If I'm honest, I'm in shock. I think that's
Okay.
the kind of the boldest statement I could say, really, and on the basis that I really, really wasn't expecting him to completely abolish the lifetime allowance.
Okay.
So one of the reasons that is kind of a couple of minutes late to join on was just texting a couple of people who I know are going to be absolutely delighted. So
Mm,
active dentists who've been kind of looking at their NHS pension projections on and off for a few years, just kind of going, oh, where's it going to be when I get there?
mm.
Where's it going to be? What's it going to cost me? And what a wonderful piece of news.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
absolutely
Absolutely.
massive on that one.
Well, we'll get into that in a few minutes, I'm sure. But let's start from the beginning. So what's been announced today? What are some of the key pointers here that would be quite important for dentists and their personal finances?
So in terms of personal finances, there's literally not a lot changed. So
Mm,
we know that we've got the energy support scheme for another 3 months. So that's just their pinning energy bills at effectively £2,500.
okay.
We know for anybody that likes a pint, we've got a reduction in the cost of having a pint in the pub. So 11p difference
All
now
wonderful
between the
news.
price that
I'm sure
pubs
that's welcome.
charge compared to supermarkets.
Uh-huh.
So a little bit of good news on that respect, but not a lot of other stuff changing around personal finances. As we went live, Jeremy Hunt was just finishing off in terms of the announcement of the childcare measures he was bringing
Mhm.
in, and literally as I jumped on here, we're starting to talk about the expansion of the 30 hours childcare down
Yes.
to children of 9 months old and above to
Mhm.
encourage people back into the workplace. So that'll be brilliant news for a lot of our dental clients as well.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Obviously, we've got lots and lots of younger dentists with young families, so that's going to be a big fillip for them.
Perfect.
Um, and again, I think it was just talking about the fact that they were going to kind of expand the support around schools for before
Mhm.
and after school care as well, and giving some formal time guidance 8 and 6 o'clock as being the start and end point. So again, another great help for dentists with young
Yeah.
families there on that one as well.
Absolutely. Some indirect help there, I guess, in terms of personal
Yeah.
finances, particularly with that childcare element.
So
Uh,
a lot of times in the budget, Gabby, we see changes to things like the income tax bans and things like that.
mm,
No changes announced like that this year. So
okay.
there's no kind of significant differences around that in terms of personal financial planning beyond the pension stuff that we've already
Mm,
hit on.
okay. Oh, welcome, Iain, as well. I saw you sneak in there whilst we were mid conversation. How are you?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. Sorry, got over the IT gremlins, but all good now.
No,
Yes,
no,
good.
no, all good. Also, the budget was still going on as well, so I appreciate there were probably some pointers that you wanted to grab last minute, as Neil just suggested. So, thank you very much for taking the time out to join us.
No problem at
Um,
all. Thank you for having us.
that's all right. I mean, what was the standout for you today, Iain, in the budget?
There was a really clear winner in that respect. When we look at the announcement around the lifetime allowance, I think that is the absolute standout, especially
Mm,
when we think about our dental world, a dental and medical world, I guess. We were expecting some good news on that front. We were
mhm.
anticipating the lifetime and annual allowance to be increasing. But for the lifetime allowance to be abolished completely, that's an absolute game changer for so many people in the world of dentistry. We found for so many years that really for the last 10 years that people have been, I guess, not forced into retirement, but almost encouraged to
Yeah,
retire for the wrong reasons. It's just fantastic that actually that has been taken out of the equation, and we can sit and do some real financial planning with people, encourage them to continue to save. And one of the most tax efficient methods of saving is through a pension,
mhm.
and not be penalised for it at the end of the day. So that's an absolute game changer for us, and I think it it gives people a lot more flexibility. It will
Yeah,
help people
100%.
make decisions that suit them and their family, and they're not just doing it for financial reasons. So that's the main one for me. There's a number of other things actually that came up as well. I think when we look at investing in businesses, that was interesting, and it's nice to see that. Obviously, as always with us, we're literally, the Chancellor's just stopped speaking now, so there's going to be some detail here that we're going to have to look into. But to encourage, I think the theory of encouraging businesses to invest in their business is excellent, and it's good to see that that's not only just going to continue, but it's actually going to improve over time. So that was really good, and I think anybody, any dental business, any dental practice looking to improve and reinvest in their practice, that's got to be encouraging as well.
Yeah, absolutely. In the age of digital dentistry, I'm sure this is giving people sort of a hopeful view of the future and makes them feel a lot more comfortable with kind of investing in that kind of technology, etc. So great news there.
Yeah, I think he specifically, as I said, there is going to have to be, we are going to have a look at the details, but he specifically said that investments into IT, plant and machinery, that you will get, you'll be able to claim that as a capital expense, is really encouraging. I think he set the limit now up to £1 million. So that's got to encourage. Anything that encourages growth or people reinvesting into their business has got to be a good thing just now. So it was really helpful. I also think when we look at things like it looks like we're not going to drop into recession is a good story to tell as well. I think clearly we all expected it, and then you look at the inflation forecast. Inflation for, unfortunately, I remember high inflation. I'm old enough to remember the high inflation, but many people that I'm working with, this was a new concept to try and get their head around, and it was a new challenge. But actually to see that's getting back under control, and it's expected to go from 10.7 down to 2.9% is also really encouraging. So I think there was some good things there for us to hang on to, especially when we think about our dental world.
I wanted to kind of delve into that mention of the recession. So obviously the Chancellor said that we are going to avoid recession this year, which is something that perhaps we weren't too sure about. I mean, is that something that you feel is, are there signs showing that is going to happen? I mean, obviously, it's a prediction, we don't know, but from both of your perspectives, do you feel that that is something that can be avoided this year?
Yeah, I mean, all the same, we have to go with the experts in this. We have to go with the independent research, and there's certainly all the pointers. In fact, I remember speaking to someone senior in our investment team who suggested this a few weeks ago and said, "No, we think this is under control. We think this is the direction it's moving in," and it's really good today to get some confirmation of that. But certainly, it's heading in the right direction. I guess that there's always got to be a cautionary. Look, we don't know what we don't know. So, could something around the corner happen that we just don't expect? I guess. But based on everything all the calculations that they've got, the direction of travel feels like it's going to be in a much more positive place. And I think so that's fine. But what's the so what in this? For me, what it does is it gives people a bit more security and a bit more confidence in terms of making kind of medium to longer term decisions. What should I do about my business? What should I do about my investments? How do I plan ahead if I don't really know how uncertain the world is? What impacts it's going to have on interest rates, etc. So I think when there's a feeling of things are starting to get back under control, and there's a bit more certainty when we look ahead, that touches on so many things, and it's such a positive thing.
I think if I could add in on that, it's probably one of the most positive budgets in terms of messages that we've seen for some time, and you hear about them talking about the inflation being at 2.9% by the end of the year. The reassurance that gives people, combined with the fact that there's the feeling that once the energy support scheme's finished in June, that will coincide with the fall in energy prices coming up into, I suppose, the end of summer, unfortunately, and the beginning of autumn and winter. They're all really, really reassuring things that allow a dentist to plan their finances both personally and on a business basis, and are really, really helpful when a lot of the other messages in the budget are around support and expansion and development as well. So hopefully we will see both professional and personal finances improve for dentists across the next 6 months and beyond. So very, very positive from my perspective.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like there's a lot that's come out today that is reassuring. I think that's the key word perhaps of this budget. It feels quite reassuring. And I think energy you mentioned there, Neil, I think that's an important one to discuss maybe in a little bit more detail, because obviously that's been at the forefront of a lot of headlines over the last 12 months and has been a key worry for both people on a personal level and at a business level. So this kind of energy price guarantee obviously is staying at the same level now. They've guaranteed that for another 3 months. I mean, what does this mean for the operational costs of dental practices?
It's hard to say. I do believe there is yet to be the detail on the business side of energy prices. So it's kind of, we can only express it on a personal basis for now until we see what sits in the smaller print potentially that comes out later in the day around the budget. So hard to comment on that at the moment, Gabby.
Okay. So I guess from a personal point of view, people can kind of sort of feel quite reassured that it's not going to increase above that £2,500 until at least June. So yeah, that's good, I guess, for the personal side of things.
I would also add, Gabby, that I think that again it's the signs you're looking for. What direction is it moving in? So if we look at if we go with what the experts tell us in this field, that the fact that they're not going to change the cap for the next 3 months, the suggestion is that in 3 months' time, the cost of fuel and energy is going to come down, which means that they actually won't need the cap. So it doesn't initially, when you think something's been held for 3 months' time, but then what? But actually, the suggestion is in 3 months' time you won't need the cap. I think that's encouraging as well. And again, from people planning their personal finances, that's got to give us a bit of security. That again feels like it's a positive and something that people can embrace. So again, another good message.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all been quite positive from what we're talking about so far, but I guess the question now to ask is, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be negative, but is there something that's missing? I mean, what hasn't been covered that could have been really vital for dentistry in this budget?
Yeah, look, there's a couple of things, and it might be something that still comes out in the detail again. I'm sorry, I have to keep caveating that, because
it's not your fault when the budget took place, Iain. If we'll forgive you.
Yeah, I mean, once you start looking at it, it can become things can start to unfold a bit. But what I was hoping for is, I mean, we really want to see investment in dentistry. We want to see some help for NHS dentists, kind of reform and be given the funding that will help them progress and move the industry on. And I guess we were hoping to see a bit more specifics around that. Now, I don't know if that's going to come out later on, but I certainly didn't pick up on that. I think that the other thing I was looking for was just, again, from a personal perspective, would have been some changes in terms of the personal taxation rates as well, and just give people a bit more money in the pocket from that respect. But obviously that wasn't the case either. But I don't know, Neil, did you pick up anything on investments in dentistry? Did I miss something?
From my perspective on that, there was a question asked in Prime Minister's question time about specific support around dental. And I'm sorry to say I can't remember which Labour MP asked it. And what I couldn't tell you is whether the answer that was given was a standard kind of reiteration of a normal party line, or whether it was new news. But it did sound like there was a support package that would potentially be announced once we see the fine detail. It did sound like there was potentially more coming. On the personal taxation side of it, I think for me, something that sat out of kilter for a long time is this kind of precipice for dentists whose incomes go above £100,000, where they lose their personal allowance at such a fast rate that they end up being excessively punished as a percentage tax rate in the pound, kind of like 67 pence in the pound, once they're above that threshold. And it would be nice to see something like that see some change in the near future, because you see dentists jump from kind of £95,000 of earnings up to 125 and literally feel like they've gained no wealth whatsoever. At the moment for us, there is an opportunity around that. It's a great opportunity for a dentist to look at something like pension planning to avoid that big tax hit. And now we've got the bigger annual allowance and no lifetime allowance, then that remains an even stronger opportunity now. But it's something, I think, for the fairness of how dental workers and all workers in that level of tax would like to see some change with.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything you feel we haven't discussed, or anything that you feel our viewers, our listeners may find of interest or may be applicable to their own situations or professional life?
There's two things for me, and it was kind of part of his, I guess, his philosophy of trying to get people back to work and trying to encourage people back to work without who might find themselves in positions where it's difficult or costly for whatever reason. So there was two sides for me, and we all know there are workforce challenges within dentistry.
Yeah.
It's one of the, I guess, the top three challenges that we've been kind of facing over the last few years. So if there's an opportunity, if we look at the childcare support again, without going into the detail, if there is an opportunity there for people who are new parents or who have children who found it difficult to find a way to get back to work while looking after their children, I'd like to think that would perhaps give people an opportunity to do that if they wanted to. So that was one thing I thought. I just wonder how that would play out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Could that be a benefit? Could that be something that the challenges for the dental workforce might benefit from? And also, I'll go back to the people who were at or around kind of retirement, people in the kind of mid-50s who were almost it made financial sense to retire and kind of get out, and maybe it was earlier than they'd hoped. Again, if we look at that, we look at people in their early 50s now who might have been moving towards that, now can perhaps think again. And I think when you keep expertise within an industry, and we know that if you get people in their early 50s, have been doing dentistry for such a long time, they're going to be good. They're going to be good at what they do, and to lose so many people at that stage in their career could be potentially damaging, I guess, to dentistry. So it's nice to at least allow them to make the decisions themselves without being forced into it because of pension rules. So I think that's a positive. I think that's something that we will definitely explore more. It will become more apparent. I think that will be the headline grabber as we go forward. But I honestly think in dentistry that's one of the key things that we can all look to, because I mean, even dentists in their mid-30s, early 40s, we can look forward and predict that, look, you're going to be over the lifetime allowance. We're going to have to look at that. Whereas now we just don't have to have that discussion. It's the only limitations you're going to have will be what you can put into pensions. And again, that's a calculation that people can do for you. So that goes way back to when I started in the late 80s. And doing this, that the only limitations with regards to pensions was how much you could put into it, and it feels like we're back to that again, which I think is really positive.
You'd have a lot of emails then in your inbox after this conversation from the people you work with.
There will be, absolutely will be.
Yeah.
I think if I could just add in on that, Iain raises a really important point where we're now going to be in an era where there is no sensible limit as to what you build in pensions. But I think sometimes something that's missed by lots of people when they're doing the planning is thinking about the tax on their income and their assets in retirement. And whilst it's kind of really great to be able to look at it and say there is now no automatic lifetime allowance limit that we need to keep you below, there still remains this importance of considering other options and other opportunities to try and spread the tax burden around the family where possible, I think. So there's still that push to get really, really good specialised advice, to not only look at it and say, okay, are we doing enough now? There is no lifetime limit, but to also say, if I am going to do more, what's the impact going to be on my income tax position in retirement? And might any more money spent on planning for the future be better in somebody else's name or in a different area. So it still needs that specialist view. It's not just a case of remove the limit and off you go. Lots of guidance needed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Neil, that's a really good point. Sorry, Gabby, that's a really good point, Neil. You still have to look at it's all very well building up pension funds, but then how you take it out and when you take it out and whose name is it in and all of that. That also feeds into a bit of estate planning and inheritance tax planning as well. When you look to see what's the best way and where's the best place to hold this money. So you're right to point that out, Neil. It's a bigger discussion than just throwing all your eggs in one basket. It does need some careful consideration in terms of how you take it back out and how you access it. So, yeah, really good point.
And what's nice around the lifetime allowance removal, I was talking to a specialist dental accountant yesterday, and he was telling me he was a little bit fearful of a rumour around changes to the business asset disposal relief, and that potentially being something that saw some dentists head for the door. And obviously this is a piece of news where you look and go, actually, it's the exact opposite effect. We've potentially got people sat there this afternoon saying, actually, I'm no longer under the same pressure that I maybe felt I was under. And I may work for longer. We've got lots of dentists in the 50s who love being dentists, who love being in practice and doing what they do, and don't know what they would do if they were retired. So it's nice to have that problem removed for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you both for taking some time out of your afternoon to discuss these initial points that were revealed in today's budget. I think there's a lot of good stuff there that people could be quite excited about, and hopefully more details will be revealed in due course.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.